to hear, to have people like bring you their records that they just made themselves, you know, and bring them in and have the records be really good, and to be able to turn people onto them. I mean, that's why I do the whole record store thing anyway, you know.
I'm John Darnielle, lead singer from the Mountain Goats, and National Book Award nominated author of the best-selling Wolf in White Fan. Thank you so much, thank you. Why is Aquarius still around? Because they didn't ever lose sight of why do you start working at a record store? Because you really like records, you like connecting people with records they like, right? That has to remain your mission.
You know what their end game is. They want to sell a record. They're only going to make a few bucks from that record. So we're not talking like they're going to become millionaires, you know, from doing that. And none of us that are involved in this music world are going to be that. But they're there for the love of it.
And it's like you're just doing it because you love the idea of turning somebody onto it. Not because they're like going, man, we can sell a shitload of this.
It's almost become a fixture of my life in a way where it's hard to remember a time before Aquarius.
And here's why I love Aquarius Records, and record stores in general. I love the artifact. Yeah. The artifact, it's not enough to have it on your computer and bring up a low-quality sound file. It's not enough.
They figured out that you want to create an experience around it and a community around it. So it's not just that you can get the artifact here, but that you're dealing with people who are not making you feel like an asshole, which is what happened to Tower Records. You know, no matter what record you were buying, you were an asshole.
I mean, I've known everybody at Aquarius in the last 20, who's worked there the last 20 years. I've never, come across any sort of that snobby or that Jack Black and High Fidelity sort of assholeness. They listed the new Adele album. If you brought that up to the counter, they're not gonna be like, oh, it's not gonna happen.
And so there's a human interaction, which is, so you get to talk to the curators and say, what's interesting right now? And they'll say, here, have this.
This is the dungeon. Here's my record collection. I would say 35,000 probably. I don't know the numbers, but I've been buying records from Aquarius since 2005, I think. Obviously it's an emotional thing. It's also a portal to another reality, really.
What do you think of his musical tastes?
Actually, I think that you've got quite a stretch in your... some things are really horrible. And other things takes a little bit time to get used to, and other things are nice.
I mean, personally for me, it's like KUSF and Aquarius Records and John Dwyer. Those are the three things that really are the reasons that I got to put out records, you know?
They were the first people to review any music of mine, and they were so nice about it. Yeah, it made a big effect on me when I was first starting to do music, because I really wasn't confident at all, and having them hold this up and like, you know, tell people about it
in other countries who then responded was huge.
As much as the internet offers you like these unforeseen powers of sort of scanning and sifting, like nothing really beats the arbitrariness of walking in a door and just be like finding things that you can never plan to find.
Aquarius forced you to be curious. You know, you could not just sit in your comfort zone. You had to say, what in the hell is this? And do I want to buy it?
You know, before there was an internet, you can actually find out about weird music and find the other people in weird music. The only place you found out about them were like rock clubs and in places like Aquarius.
It's like being with a group of friends, and I really appreciate that. And I think that's what sets Aquarius Records apart from the listening and discovering music through Spotify, Facebook, and all the other crazy ways you do it these days.
It came from Aquarius Records.
Okay.
Sí. It came from Aquarius Records.
It came from Aquarius Records.
It came from Aquarius Records?
It came from Aquarius Records.
It came from Aquarius Records.
It came from Aquarius Records. Wait.
Yo, it came from Aquarius Records, Valencia Street.
It came from Aquarius Records. There we go.
It came from Aquarius Records.
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 It came from Aquarius Records. It came from Aquarius Records. Please don't use all of them, okay? Don't make me look like a jerk.
And like, yeah, like literally the store changed my life, man. It's my favorite record store. I fucking hate that it's gone.
You going to mug me?
I'm not gonna mug you.
Is that gorgeous or what, eh?
And I believe I can run a decent marathon.
Thank you very much.
Download Veely now.
It was one of a kind. You know, it wasn't a chain. It wasn't the warehouse. It wasn't Record Factory even back then. Yeah, I think Aquarius and Rather Ripped were the two kind of, you know, if you were a musician and you wanted to meet other like-minded musicians, you know, we were the two stores, you know, Rather Ripped in the East Bay. You know, I mean, I was a customer there too, but I was really a customer at Aquarius because of, you know, because of Chris, really.
Kitty Cat Donuts, the wrong time to come up here. You're not gonna, oh God, look at that. Hi, my name is Chris Knab, K-N-A-B, and I am almost the earliest owner of Aquarius Records in San Francisco from approximately 1970 to 1980. Before Aquarius, I was working at a store called the Magic Flute, and it was run by a guy named Bob Flynn. He didn't care about new releases. All he cared about was people bringing in their used records, either trading them or selling them. Rahsaan Roland Kirk, famous jazz musician, would come in. And he was a blind man, and my job with him when he came in was to go through all the jazz albums we had and read the titles to him. And I was being educated the way I saw it. I'll read off a title of a Blue Note record, and then he'd say, is that Blue Note record AB 713 or something like that? And I'd say, yeah. Well, I already have that one. And then we'd move on to the next record. And he had it all in his head, you know? So I met incredible people there. I learned how to interact with customers Then around 1971, I get a phone call from a man called Tam Henderson, owner of a store called Aquarius Records on Polk Street someplace. And when Tam Henderson called me and said, how would you like to manage Aquarius? And we'll give you $2 an hour instead of $1 an hour. I'm going, yes, you know? And he wanted to move it to the Castro district. He wanted to sell new records and used records. But when I bought it from Tam Henderson, that was in 1972, I just bought stuff I thought was cool, you know? Yeah, Kraftwerk and all the Amandul and Noi, stuff like that. You know, that was really the underground beginnings of electronica or EDM today.
Ackley, and I'm a saxophone player, and I worked at Aquarius Records from 1973 to 1986. So my first day at Aquarius was May 1st, 1973, which was the first day that the store was on Castro Street. I'd start coming over to the Castro, I discovered Aquarius Records, and I started coming there all the time. And at that time, one of my jobs was working in a restaurant. I hated it. And Chris, he said, well, you know, we need somebody working here. Do you want a job? And it was like, I couldn't believe it, like the heavens opened up.
My name, I guess, obviously, Penny Hoyle, right? Mm-hmm. My first name spelled with an I-E, right? You got that? He was moving the store from 524 Castro across the street to 595 Castro. He wanted to hire me to manage the store. And so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll move to San Francisco because I wanted to move to San Francisco anyway.
Of course, this is when all the bars were going from old man bars to gay bars, right? And everything was just turning over. It was like another summer of love, you know, and all these guys were coming in. It was nuts.
That coincided with the disco movement and the dance music. We started selling a lot of records and people started coming into the store, and other people who were not into disco were starting to then see the stuff I mentioned earlier, the more alternative stuff of that era.
When I heard The Dam play live, I said, oh, man, that's like Charlie Parker or Ornette Coleman, or like, it's so fast, it's so wicked, it's just this crazy music, I love it.
My name is Howie Klein. I was the president of Reprise Records before I retired a few years ago. Going back into the 1960s, I was in college. And to me, the music that I liked, which was called hippie music or psychedelic music, was important because it was part of the community of change. Everybody who wanted to see the end of segregation, everybody who wanted to see more gender equality, everybody who wanted to see the end of the war, everybody who wanted to see drugs, or at least marijuana and LSD, be okay. Those people all also liked rock and roll music.
For some, there exists a social imperative beyond flaunting society's rules. For these adventurers, the mind-expanding drugs open a window on a whole new frontier.
We're lost in a beautiful energy, an energy of life, an energy of love.
I was a DJ at a gay country bar in San Francisco called the Rainbow Cattle Company. At the same time, I started also working for Harvey Milk. When I say I worked for Harvey, I was the official campaign photographer. So I took all these pictures. When you see Harvey Milk documentaries with original photographs of the time, those are my photographs. When Harvey wasn't around and the place was closed, I would just hang out at Aquarius. Eventually I got to meet Chris Knob. And Chris started introducing me to more and more of this punk rock music.
I wanted a retail music store to be like KSAN Jive 95 radio, which was the FM god during that period.
Roger, 9-5er. This is KSA in San Francisco.
This is KSAN in San Francisco. Sometimes we do it fast, sometimes we do it slow, but we always do it.
It played everything. It would play early Miles Davis into the Grateful Dead, into Quicksilver Messenger, back to Janis Joplin, to Bob Dylan, over to John Coltrane, to Muddy Waters. And I thought, this is an incredible, it was an incredible radio station. Norman Davis, who was the overnight DJ at KSAN, came in, as he often did, to shop for records. And he took me aside and he said, you know, Chris, there's this whole punk scene that's not being played on the radio. And I think if you're into it, you should come on my show on a Friday night and we'll play some of this stuff. We started the Outcast Hour.
The first place that anybody could hear any of this music once it went on the radio was at KSAN. And that was me and Chris. So obviously that's where the records were.
The next day, you know, there'll be lines of people at my store wanting to buy what I played at 2, 3, and 4 o'clock in the fucking morning.
He just stocked it really, really well. Wire and Susie and the Banshees, The Cure, the really early Cure stuff, Sonic Youth.
And then the customers of that kind of music also knew you find it at Aquarius. So it worked out perfect.
There was a German artist named Klaus Schulze, put out tons of albums. And so we got a hold of them all. At first, they didn't sell at all. But if we had a guy who had like a Pink Floyd album in his hand, we'd put on Klaus Schulze. And if you ever see the movie High Fidelity, there's a great scene of where he's watching this guy and what he has, and he puts on, I forget which band. And the guy's kind of listening to it, and he walks to the counter, like it's always, this is a truism. What's that record you're playing right now? Who's that? And how many thousands of records did we sell by playing it in the store?
Who is that?
The Beta Band.
It's good.
I know.
When you are having access to that turntable, you're a DJ.
I mean, we kind of brought a lot of the punk to the Bay Area.
I really love the kids, all the kids of today. I think they're wonderful. They're also trying all kinds of new things with the way they dress and the way they do their hair, and I think that's great.
As the music changed throughout the 70s, especially the mid-70s, we would ask, is this band playing in town? Yeah, they're coming on such and such. Can we have them come visit the store and do an in-store? And so that began part of our tradition.
The Ramones.
I think I was there when the Ramones came. Yeah, I was there when Blondie was there.
Blondie, so it was Chris and Debbie, Chris Stein and Debbie Harry.
Debbie Harry and Blondie came and nobody was really there except 2 or 3 people.
And the Talking Heads were in there.
And a Captain Beefheart, that was a good one. John Cale, The Residents, you know, pretty avant-garde and offbeat.
Resident record, photo I mean, which is very funny. You know, they always complete their invisibility. So who knows who's in the spacesuit. There's me with my Tom Petty shirt on. And Elvis Costello in the middle.
I mean, we didn't get the mainstream, you know. Foreigner didn't come, for example. I know they wanted to, but we said no. Sorry guys. They pulled up in a limo, they got out, they shopped around, maybe somebody bought something, I don't remember exactly, and then they left, but they had some stuff stuck underneath their coats. Like, dude, just pay for it, you know, or we would have given it to you.
People could just come in with a big coat and pick a ton of records, and we were not paying attention. We got robbed blind.
You know, in a way, you have to respect. They were living the punk. You know, they were totally being true to themselves.
Getting that record was really important because it was going to mean that really edgy, the edgiest part of punk was going to cross over and become really popular.
While Chris was out getting the records, walking them through customs and making sure that, you know, we cleared everything, people were starting to come in and shop, you know, wait for them.
There's a line all the way down Castro Street, down to 18th Street roughly. I'm not exaggerating. So I went, whoa, should have bought 300 copies, you know?
There was this customer that wasn't familiar to any of us, but we didn't really think anything of it because he wasn't there for the Sex Pistols. He was shopping around.
When we were having a busy day, we would take the 20s out of the cash register, or 50s if there were any, and put them in a safe in the back so that there wasn't that much cash in the cash register in case anything happened. So, because it had been so busy, nobody had dropped the money in the back.
Bruce and Chris and I were standing there going, oh wow, that was so exciting. Oh man, we just sold all those records, and waiting for everybody to leave.
And so there was one straggling guy, and I said, come on, we got to close up the store. And he comes up to the counter and he pulls out a gun.
A big old gun. I pulled up the tray where we kept the bigger bills, and I was separating all the checks. I didn't want him to take the checks. And he was like, give me the money, give me the money. And so I put all the money in the bag and then got back on the ground, on the floor.
He takes all the money from the Sex Pistols, you know, extravaganza sale of their first album from England.
And he said, if anybody gets up and tries to get me, I'm gonna blow my buddies out there, we're gonna blow your brains out. And so I was like crawling to the back of the store to call the cops, and Chris was like hanging onto my ankle. No, don't get up, don't get up. And so I had to go to a police lineup and spotted them. So I had them ask everybody who was in the police lineup to say, what time do you close, and give me the money. And so when it got to him, it was like, yeah, that guy.
When I got home that night and I got over the jitters, you know, of having a gun in your face, I had to think, is this an omen? Am I not supposed to be involved with punk rock? You know, is it, you know, I mean, you think everything, right? But that was the debut of the Sex Pistols album in San Francisco.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated? Good night.
As 79 came around into 80, part of me was getting restless, like, what do I do now? And I felt it was important to do something else. So I was free to start 415 Records, 415 Records, whatever.
We named the company 415, and the reason for that was because 415 is the police code for disturbing the peace. So if there's loud music going on, somebody can call the police and say there's a 415 at the corner of so-and-so. It also happens to be the San Francisco area code, which was a good coincidence.
Romeo Boyd, translator. Rocky Erickson, oh my God.
Two-headed dog, I'm so proud.
Two-headed dog! Two-headed dog! I'd be working in the prison with a two-headed dog.
So we suddenly started having kind of hits with bands like Romeo Void and the Red Rockers, and even Translator and some of our other bands, because MTV had nothing else to play. And we were happy to make these very inexpensive videos and give them to MTV. And I mean, Chris and I were like thrilled that suddenly there was this way to get our music out there.
So I sold the store to Butch, and then his story is he takes it to the next chapter and moved it eventually up to Noe Valley on 24th Street.
When Chris left to go to 415, and then I took over the store on my own.
Okay.
So that was when I became the president, which everybody made fun of.
As I know, he had an employee named Wendy, who then eventually bought Aquarius Records from Butch. And Wendy had employees called Andy and Allan, who now are the current owners of the store and have kept precisely, in my opinion, the goals and the intention of what we've talked about I wanted Aquarius to be when I was first involved with it.
Those guys down there now, Allan and Andy, they carry, you know, any kind of off-the-wall thing you could think of. You can go down there and find it, I'm sure. I walk in there now and I can't recognize a single thing anywhere, unless there's some reissue album they have that they got to put up on the wall. Other than that, I'm completely lost.
So, okay, I'm gonna leave the record industry, right? So I did, you know. But a couple years later, I started working at Amoeba.
And I went back to the record factory only, I had an opportunity to work in the advertising marketing department, which is really what I wanted to do. Aquarius was magical, it really was, and for a lot of reasons. You could go anywhere to get the Billboard Top 10.
You know, I was sitting here today thinking 4 years that store will be 50 years old.
No way.
Yeah. It's the oldest record store in the city by far. The only thing that was even near was Tower, and Tower's been out of business now for a long time.
You know how lucky we were to have access and be at that moment of all that incredible cool music from progressive rock slipping into the punk rock new wave scene. And there we were all right. It was like, you know, whatever it is, you know, why do you land up doing what you're doing? But I couldn't be more grateful for being at that time, having a store in that rich, rich period of the 70s.
I remember, first of all, my rent was $90. And I never thought there would ever come a day that I would pay 3 digits in rent. I thought that would never happen. And every single week, at the end of the week, I would have to make a decision. Was I going to put gas in my car, an old Ford Fairlane, or was I going to eat? And that was a real decision that I would have to make. And that San Francisco, it was a San Francisco that I love to this day, but I don't know that that San Francisco exists anymore.
Found a dream yesterday, but what did they say? What I saw could not believe, and no one can believe.
I'm fourth generation Mission District, and like, you know what's good, and I think that shit was an institution for San Francisco. And straight up the way the Mission is now, like, people do not care about having an institution. They don't. It's a very predatory world we live in. It's not tight.
The clientele that live in the Mission or around the Mission is dramatically different than it was in the 90s. You know, and like I would go into Aquarius, 98, 99, and at any given time of the day, there were 15 people in that store, 20 people in that store. And the store is very small, so it would feel very crowded all the time. It felt like a tourist attraction for weirdos.
Well, I would take a phrase from Japanese English and say it's a maniac store.
It's for people that are kind of obsessed, and you go in there because you want something very specific, and and then once you're there, you discover all these other things that you didn't know that you needed. And then you get even weirder, and at that point, you're no longer accepted in society, so you have to go back. So it's a good business model.
As soon as my head hits the recliner.
It's definitely a little bit for music nerds, but there are a lot of us out there.
So I worked at the National Coalition for the Homeless, and I used to have my records sent to me at my workplace of employment, and I would buy so much, like every 2 weeks I'd buy so many records from Aquarius. And so then I went into the store one time when I was out there, and I had my stack and I handed it to him, and he looked at my credit card and he goes, "Do you work at the National Coalition for the Homeless?" And so I was outed. I love weird music from the late 60s and early 70s. This is not a band I would ever know about or listen to prior to Aquarius.
I got introduced to some really weird avant-garde stuff from here, just going back there and putting on the headset. God, I'm the worst with band names. I am a DJ. Bands from Finland, that's what I remember. Circle and Circle side projects. I'm sure they taught me about Circle. We'll go with Circle.
Because of Aquarius Records and Andy, I definitely bought a number of Circle records.
So I came in and they were playing this band. It was super, super mellow and psychedelic. And I immediately felt like I was high. So I was very much drawn to it because I don't get high. And it was this band Circle from Finland, who apparently is like the Aquarius Records cult band.
This really unique, singular sonic vision where like every record is totally different, but you can instantly tell it's Circle, and the ideas seem so simple, but there's so much depth to even the simplest idea. Like a single riff can sort of become transcendent, and I think nobody does that better than Circle. Nobody does that better than UC.
What do you think of that? Would you agree? Yes.
Amoeba was like, just get it, buy it because the cover's cool, you know what I mean? But Aquarius was like, hey, what should I get? Just point me to 3 records because I'm not leaving empty-handed. So I found out about Longmont Pushing Castle there. So it's Hours of Fun. The Neil Hamburger crank calls.
Do you know about that?
Oh, yeah, Longmont's ridiculous.
I give you a T-bone. I got a ribeye. $15.99 a pound.
Just nose or mouth?
No, I don't have that. Who is this? You know what I mean? I'm trying to be nice to you.
I'm from just around San Antonio. My name's Smiley. You guys got any mouth up there?
No, I don't have mouth.
I'm trying to get some mouth going wild.
Come on. Come to the store, please. Thank you.
What do you have to do when an Aquarius order comes in most of the time?
There's a small note. It appears in my mailbox, and then I take that note, go to the post office, which is 6 kilometers away. I don't have a driver's license, so I have to either use a bike or a kick sledge, which is a Norwegian thing. 6 kilometers there, and then back again. Been my big crush lately. Nico Case. I'm so into her music. Oh, Nico Case. When I listen to her, stuff just happens to every part of my body. It's like in my stomach there's butterflies from MDMA, and in my brain, oh no, let's just not go there. I have such a big crush on Nico Case.
I always get put on the Gays and Comics panel, and I don't hate that, but I feel like I've had enough to say about a particular subject. I am a music guy, and I really like talking about its influence on comics, you know. I got into Nails, which certainly that has its own genre, I guess. They call it, is it like enslaved core or something like that? They have some very awful, dismissive name for it, but I refer to Nails as pure sex. That music is pure sex to me. It has a lot to do with the lead singer, Todd Jones's tree neck. It sticks out to me because of who's making it to some degree. So I call that my boy band.
His record is, it's not Simon & Garfunkel. This record is all of the recorded silences that they could find on records that were intentional silences. So you have like Silence by Coyne Youth. There's a silent track on There's a Riot Going On by Sly and the Family Stone. Andy Warhol had a track called Silence. John Lennon put 3 seconds of silence on one of his records. Crass had a track on one of their records called The Sound of Free Speech, which was just 1 minute of silence. Mm-hmm. And when you play this record, you can hear the little tiny surface noise and hiss and pops, so you know that they're actually sourcing them from commercial releases of silence. But the bottom line is there's nothing on this record.
Aquarius should continue to exist. It's a San Francisco institution. It's like a music community, a worldwide music community institution. So it's a little bit tragic that it's not going to be around anymore.
The best ever death metal band out of Denton was a couple of guys who'd been friends since grade school. One was named Cyrus, and the other was Jeff, and they would practice twice a week in Jeff's bedroom, yeah.
If you'll excuse me, I have to pause for a Manhattan. Thank you, Garcon. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Oh, outstanding. Wendy, this is for you. So Wendy was a clerk at Aquarius, or you know, whatever you call a person who works the counter, and she was giving the place a lot of personality. Aquarius had been around for a long time, but she had these handwritten cards about the records that she thought were good.
You want me to read it to you?
Yeah.
Okay. At first, I thought this CD would change my life. Eventually, its positive vibe began to bug me. Its tedious jolliness disturbing my thoughts like a Girl Scout on Quaaludes. Soon I began drinking to excess. Eventually, my friends stopped talking to me. My girlfriend left me. I got fired and was forced to get a job at a pretentious hole in the wall where I spend my days plotting to kill my boss. What CD should we put this on?
And she wrote me fan mail. It was like 3 pages, saying you should play at my store if you ever come up. We played there, and I bought the first shellac 7-inch, which like was very hard to find. I was like, oh my God, I have the shellac thing. It's like, I'm gonna be the envy of my friends. And we played in store there and stayed in touch with Wendy. And the store moved, and then she bought the store, and then she sold the store. And so I go back with Aquarius, 25 years ago.
Even when you punish a person for dreaming his dream, don't expect him to thank or forgive you. The best ever death metal band out of Denton will in time both outpace and outlive you, singing, Hail Satan! Hail Satan! Tonight, Hail Satan! Hail, 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 hail! Thank you so much. Good night.
You know, part of My tenure, my 14 years at the store, I tried to look at the big picture as often as possible. Our customers did not live in Noe Valley anymore, where the store was located at the time, right? They all lived in the Mission, and so it made sense to me to move the store down here.
And different owners, I'm sure you've probably discovered, have different emphases that they'll do with the store. So the store has changed personality since it started, but there was still a through line, still a continuity of Aquarius.
Aquarius has always passed down from employee to employee. I sold the store to the boys 13 years ago. 13 years ago.
So I'm Andy. You know how to spell it. And I'm one of the 2 Aquarius overlords.
And I'm Allan, and I also am an Aquarius overlord. We're the co-owners of Aquarius Records.
But don't put co-owner under mine. Put overlord.
Right. And our corporation, you're the president, and I'm the chief financial officer.
And?
Secretary.
And secretary.
Yeah. The vice president.
Do you have multiple titles as well? Or just
No, I'm just president.
And overlord.
And overlord. But my public persona is more overlord, and my private persona is more president. It's complicated.
Andy, he's really inclusive, and when he likes something, he gets this like a little bit of a delight and a glee about it that's really apparent, and he's very generous about spreading that around.
They're all like, okay, you know what'd be cool is if we all dressed up like a music genre. I'll try to think of a genre that has something to do with the costume. So I brought like costume, and I brought a flute. I brought the flute.
So you were a
medieval Prague. Because it could be an imaginary genre.
And then also in the 90s, he was in like a super respected, indie post-rock band, A Minor Forest. And so he knew a lot of people in the scene, but then he could also talk to like a customer that wasn't a musician and wasn't like an insider, and also make them feel like an insider too, just by, from the friendly way that you could talk to him about music.
I think he's still like, 14-year-old kid who's going to some punk show in San Diego with the X's on his hands. He's like still not going to drink. He's going to hang out and talk to people about music, and then go and get pizza afterwards. So
I realized recently that I say shit a lot. You do. And it made me feel bad that we got to reshoot all those things.
No, you don't.
So my mom's going to watch this,
I heard Allan too. He just seemed like he would be really good at it. He was a nice guy.
he would almost know exactly what we would have in stock at any one time. And he would know like, oh, this is a special order. This is something that we have in the stock in the store. Things that are like, I'm working with the inventory, and he's in the back of the shop, and he knows it better than I do.
Allan is the proto new wave of British heavy metal obscurity expert, and
what would you say Andy is?
Yeah, Allan.
Yeah.
Allan.
Yeah, that's Allan.
Yeah, Allan is glasses. Well, they both now wear glasses.
Allan's a skinnier dude, glasses.
He's the married with kid.
Yeah.
And generally a little bit more of the quieter.
Yeah, that might go there. That's very good. Excellent. We're gonna keep that one there. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Pretty soon. We'll put you to work at Aquarius doing this soon enough.
I would recommend asking people about Andy and Allan's wonderful old married couple shtick, which I think is also, at least in my case, and maybe I'm an outlier on this, but that was always a crucial part of the draw.
And why do you want that? Because it's a one sheet.
Yeah, it's a one sheet for a cool record that I like.
You don't understand how insane that sounds. You have a child and a house, and you want to save this fucking piece of paper because it has a one sheet about a record you listened to 10 years ago?
Maybe.
Okay, I can't help you. Well, we always bicker. I think anyone who spends every single day with each other for 20 years is sort of gonna bicker. Like, I see Allan more than Heather, who I live with, who I'm engaged to, and who I've been going out with for 20 years.
It's kind of like Jack Sprat could eat no fat, and his wife could eat no lean. So they're a good pair because they cover opposite ends of the same spectrum.
No one hears fighting. No one hears fucking. No one. Like, there's really. I meant each other. He's supposed to say, still speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Anyways, you know, we compliment each other pretty well. He does all the books. I mean, I don't know that he likes to do that stuff, but he's definitely better at it than me.
Yeah, it's very Felix Unger, you know, Oscar Madison. I think we know who's who.
So what goes on in here at this desk?
Apparently a lot of drinking and eating. Here's some empty cups and some, there's some more empty cups.
Would you like to?
A whole bunch of empty cups.
Would you like to let us know, Al, what goes on at this desk, just so we?
It's all like and some beard shampoo in one of the cups. Some homemade beard shampoo in there.
It's all really sensitive information. I can't really discuss on camera about any of this. I said, you be careful back there.
A plastic bag.
Plastic bag
full of scissors. Let's go on and put that back.
All right. Well, I'll leave you alone to finish up.
That plastic bag smelled like fruit. Do you have fruit in that bag? I hope so, because
I don't know.
Your scissors smell like fruit.
Going into Aquarius, being new to a city, seeing what had kind of formed around it, seeing what they were selling there, it seemed very definitively San Francisco. It was crucial, since music was a component in the comic, for the characters to go, to my mind, the definitive music spot that wasn't a club or wasn't a bar or some sort of venue. He just fit into this world of big, hairy dudes, regardless of his sexuality. To me, San Francisco and Andy was that type of pop cultural cameo in San Francisco that had to be in my comic.
Yeah, we didn't talk about music much in this documentary, did we? Shout of the Devil is one of the greatest records of all time. Yeah, yes. So yeah, of all time.
Oh, Alan's always turning me on to stuff, honestly. Yeah, whenever I come in and he's like, oh yeah, you'd like this, and I buy it, and of course I
remember
do.
one time you were DJing at your wife's shop down the street at Newark's.
Oh yeah.
And I told you about some record, and I was like, well, I'm going back over to the store, and you gave me the money, and I went over and got it and brought it back so you could DJ with it.
Yeah.
It was like Wicked Witch or something like that.
Yeah, it was great. Oh, what'd you get? See the next generation.
Jim and I always got along really great at the store. I like to think.
Did you? Yeah, we
I
did.
think we did. We got along really well. I heard him because, electronic music, which has been around, for as long as, before any of us were born. But I only became aware of it, and in the whole indie rock world, only became aware like in the early 90s. And Jim was working at an electronic music distributor, and so he was like one of this town's experts. And so I hired him specifically to come in and represent and educate.
I collect Hey Joe.
Oh, okay.
The best one is Nick Cave's.
Oh yeah.
I mean, as far as the contemporary stuff goes.
Hey Joe, where you going with that gun in your hand?
And the Hendrix one is the iconic one.
Hey Joe, where you going with that gun in your hand?
The Leaves did it first. And it's more of like an up-tempo jangly song. The Offspring did a really good version of it. And Typo Negative did a version of it too.
It's very good.
And Typo Negative, it's not a gun who he goes after, but an axe.
Where you going with that axe in your hand?
For us, it was just about communicating this information and enthusiasm about the music. That was like our calling card. It was like, we like to talk about the music that we love, no matter how strange or obscure.
Those guys are my heroes. You do a small niche thing, you do it super well, passionately, and you do it forever. And, there's no stock ticker and there's no investors, and it's beautiful. So like, you know, that kind of thing, that kind of small business thing means a lot to me, and I think is really valuable.
So I have this on CD. Oh yeah. I have this on CD. I'm trying to help out my buddies, man. It's not about me. It's about my friends.
We have some giveaways. First of all, make sure everybody knows that there's a raffle. If you buy anything, make sure you get your name signed up there at the counter, because there's this huge box of stuff we're giving away. This is a stack of awesome CDs from Sub Pop. Who can tell me where Sub Pop's located? I think you raised your hand first.
Oh, thank you.
There you go. And
Thanks.
there you go,
Oh
Warren.
my
Enjoy
gosh.
that.
Wow.
Because radio stations have to stick together.
You know, what do you want? We have a store full of people shopping and having fun. It's been like this all day. So, like this and Record Store, we've done this interview before on Record Store. When you look at this, you're like, that's how it should be every day. Why on a weekend it's not just full of people buying records? And, you know, and granted, we're having a sale today, but like, you know,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Someone came up to me and was like, "You do this every week?" I'm like, "No, but
that'd be cool.
Should be every week."
I'm DJing at 6:30, and Scott's about to DJ, and I think we're both like, oh boy, we really have to like not suck because everybody else has been so good. Like, this was a tribute comp to Black Sabbath with this band called Mobile Whorehouse doing Iron Woman, and I don't know if they'll enjoy that. I might not play that, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
One line. Waiting for the demon. Waiting for the demon. Does that ring any bells whatsoever? That's the chorus.
Can you sing it again?
You're just doing this for this part.
Yay, good
Yeah.
job. Great party.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, were you at the?
You're welcome.
more balls cake?
Yeah.
Wait, what's it called again? It's called Balls Cake?
I called it that.
It has the consistency of a very expensive couch made out of human balls.
Made out of the very richest people's balls.
Yeah, the richest, most moisturized balls in the world.
Today's like easily the best day we've ever done, I think, right? It's better than Record Store Day last year, which was definitely up there in terms of best days we've ever done. So it's got to be great, yeah. And people are, rather than like one rush at the beginning, there's been people constantly all day, just like Record Store Day. Right, right. And they're buying records that we like rather than like the Record Store Day stuff, which some of them we like, but we don't like them all. So yeah, it's been great, wonderful.
I mean, it's true. It taps into the community, like the community that's represented by the people who work here, which is a not inconsequential element. Being here tonight and seeing people who've known each other for years and years, people who maybe met each other here, like, it kind of reminds you why I work. Like, it's like this nexus of all these things coming together, you know.
We got 3 different kinds of beer, and the dude was a super stoner. And then we got 2 cases of each or something.
We got 3 of the Takata and 2 of the Rolling Rock, and he only charges for 1 of each.
1 case of each.
Oh wow! Yeah. So we got the beer. We only spent $50 on the beer.
And I got a bottle opener
and
ring.
plus, I got this ring. Were you using that?
Bottle opener ring.
What's weird is that usually our net on this register
would it have been
bigger than the gross,
But
even though
there
that
might
doesn't
have
make
been
sense.
the 20%. Would that be on top of that?
Oh, yeah.
The 20%.
That's probably what it is.
That's probably what it is.
That's probably what it's doing. Yeah. So I think this is I think
that's what we did. That's what we did.
That's fucking great. Congratulations.
Now if we do this every week.
I don't want to read.
Oh, yeah. All right, here's more ones.
Where's the 12 cents?
All right.
A lot of stuff's easier when you're younger. Touring's easier when you're younger. Being broke and eating top ramen is easier when you're younger. Like, just saying fuck it and not paying your bills is easier when you're younger. Like, so I mean, it's gotten to a point where it's sort of like, you know, Alan and Deborah are having a kid, and there's a breaking point, I think, where no matter how much we love something, you can't survive.
And I also think that there's a level of sacrifice there which anyone who has operated at the independent level of music making or music selling has probably experienced.
When I started at Aquarius, it was 1994. I now own Aquarius. I've been there for 20 years, and I make less now than I did in 1994. So that's weird. It's weird, and it's a little bit of a bummer. A friend of mine runs this place, and then he told me, "Oh, you'd make a shitload of money in it." It's weird. So
I don't know, I saw Andy, and he was telling, he didn't get into it, but he was telling me that he was like working for Chewy delivering pizzas, and I was just like, wow, man, I mean, record stores, that kind of shit's important, man. It's super important. Even if it's just like maybe 5 regular customers that come in, like, you know, foot traffic actually come into the physical store. And of course, in San Francisco, it's hard to keep things open just for that little.
The business has been, you know, what came down from like a height like before the recession, and that was quite a while ago now, and it hasn't really bounced back. And so it's like maybe we do probably less than a third of what we did at our peak.
We can totally survive, but the longer we push it, potentially the more in debt you get, and it's sort of a weird self-fulfilling prophecy, you know. Cool on my nuts.
In the most expensive neighborhood in one of the most expensive cities. Yeah. So you could definitely see them being the subject of a lecture, but not necessarily one that they'd agree with.
That's not my city anymore at all. It's just the people there. It's not. It's happening here. I don't want to go on and on about like gentrification and all that stuff, but it's just, you know.
The clientele that live in the Mission or around the Mission is dramatically different than it was in the 90s. And so when Aquarius was really starting its resurgence and like upward trajectory as being the identity that we all know Aquarius has now in the late 90s, people that lived in and around that area were the kind of people who patronize Aquarius on a daily basis. And most of those people have been priced out of the Mission. And most of the people who live in the Mission now are not people who, on a day-to-day basis, would stop by Aquarius.
What's desirable about San Francisco is that it's quirky, and there's all these cool little weird things and shops and people. But by their very nature, those quirky little shops and people function at a level well below this crazy rich person level that everything else functions at. So like it's the inadvertent fallout, I guess, when like a rich person's like, oh, I love Aquarius, and I have nothing against rich people, or I have nothing against rich people spending money at Aquarius, but just if all the rich people move here and they're willing to spend $1 million on a house that should cost $200,000, soon all the houses here cost $1 million, and nobody can afford to live here, and everything just starts going somewhere else.
It started to surprise me a lot when the Mission was changing drastically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come 2010, 2011, 2012, I started thinking, is this store really going to hang on?
Mm-hmm.
Because the people who lived in the Mission didn't want what they were offering.
Andy also has his other gig, because we have to pay our bills in the store, which used to make
make us a little bit of a living. In recent years, hasn't really been doing that, which leads us to the subject of this particular interview.
One thing that's happened is vinyl has all of a sudden become a lifestyle thing where, now the pressing plants are firing up, but they're like pressing up like 180 gram reissues of the Footloose soundtrack or the Dirty Dancing 2 soundtrack, which is displacing like people waiting in line to press good records the way these apartments are displacing the people that want to make good art in the city. So, a rough trade store opened in Williamsburg and they're carrying like tons of vinyl, and it's a huge space. It must cost like $1 billion a month to run the space, but they stay open, and I'm wondering like, I guess these people are all coming and buying their Footloose reissues or whatever. I'm so cynical. Why are you interviewing me? I don't even know. But
I feel like the physical space where you come to get your mind blown, it's not really something that, it's in short supply now.
Because it's just becoming like Manhattan, there's no room for the middle class, or it's just super difficult for the middle class to afford anything.
I don't know that a generation that was brought up with the entire world available on the supercomputer in your pocket, needs to buy records.
A store like Aquarius and other music are more about curation. It's about our taste. It's about what we, what we bring. It's about a relationship with the customers. It's not at the center of the action anymore. It's there's no, great records can come out and not even be available physically, that are super important and vibrant, and the conversation does not necessarily have to pass through a record store at all. It's it can be slightly deflating for sure.
But like right now, everything we do is super labor intensive, and I think most stores, don't do as much mail order as we do, and don't write hundreds of reviews, and so they're able to just like have a little store with one person working there and just hanging out and talking to people, which I think would be amazing and would be super cool, but that's not what we do. And part of what makes what we do special is that like that guy who lives in bumfuck wherever, like we're his local record store, and he is able to email and order stuff. He's able to email and like have a normal conversation with me via email about music or about his kids or about the trip he just took. It's like very, like that community aspect that is the most important thing I think about a record store. For us, we work really hard on extending that to people who don't have a local record store.
I'm not like a strictly business kind of person. It's not like I want to buy this and how much would it cost, and like, hello, how are you and how's your day? And I just came back from a hike and maybe post a picture of that and say, yes, I came back and was so pleased to find a new list was in, and sat down with a cup of tea and maybe a bit of whiskey or something. And of course the people start writing back, oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed it, and they tell me about their day, and all of a sudden you get to know these people.
Part of what we do is giving people things that they're not paying for too, like that we're a resource. There's a lot of people who get our email list and look at our website and read our reviews and utilize that information and appreciate it, and don't buy music from us, maybe because they have a record store where they live, maybe because they don't buy music but they download it, or they're digital.
The list. I mean, the list was and is this invaluable resource where it just, okay, here's what we got. Here's the new stuff this week. Check it out. And stuff you'd have to, especially pre-internet, where there's almost no way you would have found out about 90% of it.
My tenure, my 14 years at the store, I saw the internet was starting to happen, and so we started the list as an email list, right? We had one of the earliest email lists I know of.
Oh, Wendy, she was so good at building systems and building a grander scale thing that was not just putting a little description on a record and saying, awesome, buy it. But then also taking that and applying it to databases, to handling information, and then being able to export that information to a website, putting it onto a newsletter, and organizing all these people so that they could be able to use the system not just in 1999, but in 2016, because it's still the system that we use.
I'm Jan de Vroede and I'm a musician. I play in a band, my own band called Mizzy and the Deer Children, which is kind of like it's indie music from Greenland. There's trumpets and drums and kazoos and wild guitars, so that kind of stuff. I would wake up, make myself a cup of coffee and just read the whole thing. And even if I had zero interest in something or I thought I wouldn't, I would just give it a try, listen, fill an entire morning with it. Now the store's closing, I kind of contributed to their retirement just a tiny bit.
What else have I gotten turned into by Aquarius? I mean, a ton of stuff. Dr. Octagon was an Aquarius find.
I also remember getting into like earlier West Coast music. Like I bought an Avengers collection there, big San Francisco band that I learned about in the Aquarius in Noe Valley. And
one of the records I bought from Aquarius was Birdsong slowed way down. I liked Birdsong records at regular speed, and then somebody had slowed them way down, and it's amazing how complicated the melodies that little birdies come up with.
This is the general sort of wardrobe of the Aquarius sort of customer. Responsible and rugged, but not fashionable, but utilitarian. I mean, as you get older, like you kind of have no choice but to get a little jaded. And the thing that I loved always about their newsletters was I could read the whole fucking thing and I would love it, because it's not like a lot of record stores where they just cut and paste from the one sheet. No, it's like they go, okay, so you want to buy the new Pornographers record. We get it. So, and they go through, like they disassemble it. And holy shit, there have been many imitators, but there are very few people that pull that tone off week after week as successfully as Aquarius.
When the list has been released, it's morning. The list is usually just there or will be there in an hour or something, so I'll be ready. I can show you a band and a label that I've been turned on to by Aquarius. Castleface, the local San Francisco label. And probably my favorites, the OCs.
Fair, not everyone can write. Just because people can put things down in textual form doesn't mean that they, one, know how to write, two, write well, or can be entertaining. Aquarius Records always had all that right there. I'd say it's literary.
They're not like music criticism. They're just like, they're a written version of a conversation you and I might have about some record that I got that I love and I want to tell you about it.
Here's the part. Whenever anything goes in this direction, it's another thing that I can't not turn away from. It is so alien and completely bizarre that just calling it metal sells it short. Primitive, futuristic, lo-fi, black grind, electronic metal. Oh my God, yeah. And then they have a great analogy. Demons being beaten to death and a little bit like a drag race mic'd and broadcast through a bullhorn. If it sounds like that, I have to get that.
This most recent list we sent out, the new arrivals list, was new arrivals list number 500. And that means I think we've written 30,000 reviews or 25,000 reviews or something outrageous like that.
But if there was a telephone book, like literally like on telephone book style paper, people would fucking buy it like crazy. You know why? It was a consistent source of joy to read them write about music.
Aquarius is we're the kind of store that we only sell what we like, right? So that tends to be like a really broad range of things, and like you need a context to put those things into, and you need a context to realize why certain records are good and why certain records are bad. And certainly it's all subjective, but you know, some records are good and some are fucking bad. What we try to do is just write little reviews of them, and you know, like people can take it with a grain of salt and be like, well, I don't really agree with that, you know, with Jeff's review of something or whatever, you know. That's why we do all the little tags and things.
The knowledge that they have is not something that you can just find out from reading Reddit columns. Like you have to, the only way you can do it is by living it. And it shows. It fucking shows.
It's Mike Patton from Faith No More, Trevor Dunn from Mr. Bungle, dude from Slayer, the drummer, what's his name? Dave Lombardo. Yeah. And Buzz Osborne from the Melvins doing movie themes, like the theme from like Rosemary's Baby and a bunch of more Coyne stuff.
And if you like this and you like these reasons, and you like what they put in the parentheses, which I always love, their little asides, if you like that, you're pretty much given to like it.
All right, so in that case, it would probably be Justin Foley, probably just the austerity program.
Max Foley,
Probably Justin's son.
More like Justin's kid who really wanted to be in this film.
I'm excited enough about their enthusiasm, and they are genuinely enthusiastic. I think that their attitude towards music is maybe not critical enough, but it's certainly like, it's totally genuine. I just feel like something must be said about this record. The Joachim Skosberg record. Should there be an official vinyl reissue of one of Sweden's greatest unknown psychedelic treasures from the 1970s? There should be. Good, make that record. Don't, it should not be in my house. Allan, I believe it was insistent. This record is really good. You will blow your mind. And like, it was just this, it was, as he was talking about, he was using adjectives that like, they were flashing red, like no, like he's like, oh, psychedelic, not my thing, right? Like very improvisational, not my thing. You know, one man, unstructured, no, I don't like this. And I'm like reaching from, put it in the pile, right? Like, I don't know what it was that made me think, it was like a $35 record.
What a waste
I know.
of $35.
It was a total waste of $35. And
$35?
there's only 500 of them, and maybe there's 499 fans of this who are out there and love it, and one of them who can't find this record, right? It shouldn't be here in my house. Their enthusiasm.
I would not give that away. That is really, really rare. I would not give that away.
Come make us an offer. It's yours. Make an offer.
I get so wrapped up in that enthusiasm that I don't make smart choices.
Maybe this is a good visual analogy for Aquarius Records, like cute animal with metal shirt. I mean, that seems pretty fitting. Picking out things on the Aquarius list. Andy wouldn't even recommend a specific artist. He'd be like, you need to check out this label. And very often those recommendations led to discoveries of these whole worlds of music that I had no prior knowledge of.
Nice show up. Nice smell. Amazing. Like cedarwood.
Well, they said the upstart label, Dust to Digital, has stepped in to sing the praises of the praises. This is one astoundingly compiled and executed collection. If you can't find a spot for it on your own shelf, you can certainly make a loved one happy by letting them find one under the Christmas tree. Very highly recommended. Well, pretty nice.
My name is David Katznelson, and I signed what Wikipedia says is the weirdest band who put out the weirdest record on a major label ever. Aquarius was always very supportive of me signing the Boredoms. I went to see them because somebody told me that I just needed to see this band, and I've never seen anything like it. It was like watching a punk rock Marvel comic. It was chaos, and it was ordered chaos. So the next day I went to the office and signed it. The first thing that I was able to do is use my expense budget to learn more about the scene. So I would go to Aquarius and I would buy up their entire noise section and their entire Japanese noise section and the whole thing. When she was a baby, they always tell you white noise puts kids to sleep. Well, I tell you here, I'm looking at the camera for this, don't buy it off of iTunes. Just get some great Japanese noise from the early 90s at Aquarius Records, and I guarantee you it'll work even better. And you can say, hey, my daughter has a record by CCCC, and it sounds very cool. It's a limited edition one too, isn't it?
I believed in David, right? I believed in David. I believed in his vision, and you know, these weren't gigantic money deals, but there were always good reasons to do it. David was a good record guy.
I was definitely turned on to the outskirts of the world of music through Aquarius, for sure. So, you know, worked at Warner Brothers and as an intern, and then a month before I graduated from college, I got a call from my boss, Roberta, saying, we're signing the band you brought to us, the Flaming Lips, and we're hiring you.
Well, and we're old friends with Katznelson, who I know
Oh, totally,
you
yeah,
have
yeah.
a long history with. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, he started off at, like, is that what it was, KUSF?
Yeah.
Our manager, you know, Scott Booker, he ran the record store in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Working there, you know, and thinking about, you know, what is it that people really like and how should releases come out, how much they should cost. Even the way we do this stuff now. You know, I think it all goes back to him being like, I work there.
Yeah.
I know what it's like. I know what I think he knows how record stores work.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, that interaction, that close interaction between the people who love the music and the people who make it is kind of an important thing, you know?
I think everybody in the store will say the Flaming Lips changed their lives, and they're probably right on every level, but I actually can say they changed my life on even deeper levels than that. They physically moved me and altered the course of my reality without the drug part, although that's fine too.
My name is Larry Herwig, and I play drums in Pelican.
The Australasian one was pretty funny. The Avant Stoner Throne, and it's, if you like Mogwai, the Melvins with some flashes of Morbid Angel. I think that's hilarious. They take their time with each record and they really like dig into it, and they nail it for the most part. By the time we were touring, that's when I think a lot of us were trying to find a lot of like the weirder like black metal stuff, because it was like right around the mid-2000s when like a lot of that like Leviathan and like back the one-man black metal scene kind of like sprung.
I mean, they just describe things that, you know, like a musician's would, you know, like trying to put like all that sonic information into words, which is really hard. You know, I have strong feelings when I read this. It's cool. It's awesome.
This oral landscape of moving mountains that come together in this crushing flow of lava, you know, that erupts in your ears, and you're like, well, fuck, dude, I want that. And we're like, oh, but fuck, the whole email's that. I'm like, well, what do I pick? I want all of it.
I have the words that pop out at me. I mean, the band names, obviously. Yeah, anytime I see the word haunting or hauntological or eerie or grim or brooding, melancholy.
Atmospheric.
In the natural world, predators have something called a search image, where they basically have the shape of their prey in their mind as they're hunting. And so I kind of do that with Aquarius reviews, where I have a search image of certain words that makes me stop scrolling and go, okay, maybe I should check this out.
Oh my God. She's like, ask me a question. Aquarius propped me up when I just had a CDR. They just like wrote a big glowing thing about it in their weekly send out. And then I got like an offer, and then, you know, people in Europe were talking to me. They super helped me out. It was during the time when, you know, so many people in Europe were only looking to Aquarius for like a kind of a slice of what was happening in the States with experimental music, because they were like the main connection point.
Right around the time when Oxbow started in the late 80s, somebody would tell me that the Aquarius reviewed your records. So what do you mean they reviewed the records? So I was like, oh, and I came up, of course, to read an Oxbow review on the record, and they were fans. Became friends 10 years later with the owners at the time, so it's been a family operation in my mind, if there ever was one. So.
Erwin from Aquarius and KUSF was the first guy to play any of my music on the radio anywhere, and then he asked me to bring in tapes for Aquarius. So for me, it's just like, I feel like I just owe Aquarius a lot.
I think one of the very first reviews that came out was from Aquarius Records. So I remember very clearly them reviewing my first album. It was a series of little encouragements, like including those certain reviews, that kind of convinced me maybe like I could have more than an open mic night following.
I'm always so happy when one of our records shows up, because not all of our records show up in the Aquarius list. And then that's escalated enormously on the rare occasion that will end up being Record of the Week. You know, it's like, these are people who hear 10,000 amazing fucked up records every week. And the fact that like we made a fucked up record that they heard this week that they thought was better than every other fucked up record they heard, enough to like gush about it to total strangers, is, you know, it's an incredible feeling.
I would almost compare them to Pitchfork, because Pitchfork, I go there for music that I wouldn't normally pay attention to, more pop music, but with Aquarius, it was as, for me, working and helping to do the buying for this record store, we were reading their list as if it was like reading the list through Revolver and Force Exposure, except you'd get a much more detailed idea of what the records were like, and then we'd go seek them through distribution. Like, okay, Aquarius, often if they had a record in the Record of the Week, you'd be like, okay, we got to stock this.
Constantly turning people on to new things is their survival mode. You know, that's how they can stay afloat, because they can bring in all these folks that are really hardcore fans, like devoted people shop at Aquarius. You know, like they're waiting for the next release of so-and-so artist that chances are Aquarius will be the only place that's carrying it.
Aquarius totally did the right thing, because at a certain point it became really apparent that the stores that were going to survive were Best Buy, just the huge behemoths, the Costco of record stores of the world. and the tiny little niche ones that catered to an audience that couldn't get that stuff anywhere else and knew it and knew their customers really well. And Aquarius, maybe more than any other store in San Francisco, was the niche store.
Well, that's an ongoing joke where, we're out and about and then you hear something, or like, you're I don't know, you're by a construction site, or you hear there's a fan broken in a motel window and you're like, Aquarius Record of the Week.
39715. 39715.
It's the only store I ever saw that bought 400, 500 Coyne Project box sets that they've sold. There's nothing else like that store on the planet.
The whole Coyne Project thing kind of blows my mind, because here is a 4 CD set of numbers read over the Cold War radio apparatus, but they lured you into the world of the Coyne Project. They lured you into the lore of what this really might be, and is it a spy thing? Is it an alien thing? And then all of a sudden they started putting a graph on the wall where they would X out how many they had sold. I think they sold 500 copies. And that's a gold record for record stores. I mean, they should have gotten the magnificent thing from that.
Yeah, and I remember reading about that on their website. I was like, I don't even understand what they're talking about. That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. And then you buy it and you listen to it and it's even weirder. But yeah, I loved that thing so much. I bought it for 4 different friends for Christmas one year, and nobody knew what it was. I think they all probably threw them away, but I love that. I remember that one.
You just take it for granted that it's still there. And why would it not still be there? And every time you get that list, you're like, oh, Aquarius is still there. It's a really powerful thing for music, I think, because even if you don't purchase stuff from that list, or even if you read that list and you end up buying it elsewhere, the existence of that list is confirmation, for 2 more weeks, that everything is right.
Oh no.
Yeah, on July 4th was the last day. The reason it was San Francisco anymore. Want to answer that question? You're back to the camera.
I mean, I can imagine if, you went there every week, or the people who actually get to go there. I would go there and be like, you people, you don't even realize what you have. If I get lucky for work, I can go here, and it's a place, and it's not just this, virtual space. I can imagine that is going to be even worse for people. But even for those of us who are far-flung and, just on the interwebs, it still stinks.
I like to think that the main mission of the store, in terms of discovering and sharing, great music in all kinds of weird genres that we're into, we've been pretty successful with, and we get a lot of recognition for that. Unfortunately, we just don't get financial remuneration for that that matches the amount of work that we do for it. So that's the difficulty. I mean, if you're getting mentioned on, we're in an article in the LA Times the other week, and we get on BuzzFeed does an article about the Apple's new streaming service and talks about how it should be, if only it was like Aquarius, and wow, that kind of press, you'd think we'd be, I'd be getting a paycheck, but.
If you're reading it and you're buying it from somebody else, it's just wrong, unconscionable to sort of read our reviews and champion what we did, but then not support us.
This was interesting because Wendy, who owned the store and who hired me and who hired Allan, she, at some point she bought the store, transformed it into something cooler than it was, and then I think just got burned out and then went to work at Apple. And at the time she was totally struggling. It was, and I don't think any of us got it. We're like, well, why are you doing that? And why is, she was just torn up about it. And now I'm like, I totally get it now. It's a weird, scary, sad thing. And it's a big change, and changes are scary. And if it's a change that comes after
20 years of no change, that's even scarier, you know?
Aquarius, though, like I said, has a lot going for it. Has that long history. It has our special thing we do. It has our great customers and our fantastic staff of people, and so I think there's tons of potential. But what it also requires is, like, you know, word I used already is like a reboot.
I won't own Aquarius in 13 days. Yeah.
What's going on?
I mean, the whole thing is super weird.
What's there?
Especially that we're on this trip specifically to talk about this thing that's been my whole life, and potentially won't be before I get home. You know, like, the goal for us is to be, for the store to live on in a way that continues the legacy in an interesting way. And for Allan and I to get out debt-free. Like, we've already sort of accepted that we won't make any money. Like it'd be super rad to leave and be like, oh, we have this little nest egg or something to do the next thing. But, you know, that's not going to happen. So the next best thing is getting out without owing money to anyone. Allan's theory, and I think I concur, is that getting a shop at 22nd and Valencia with a $3,000 a month rent with a 5-year lease is worth as much money as they spend on the shop. Like, if they found a place that wasn't Aquarius, it would likely be $7,000 to $10,000 a month in that same location. There's a lot of letting go involved, and so I think that's still a struggle for me.
3, 2, 1.
I think that we live in a very big throwaway culture. Things are changing so quickly that we're becoming enslaved to technology in ways that we have no idea about. We're like little children in the world of technology that we live in, you know, and I think that even the people who claim to know a lot about this world are ignorant about the long-term effects that it'll have on our race. And I think that because of that, people are clinging more and more to experiences. There's Burning Man, you know. I think people are clinging more to beautiful things that are celebrative, and I think that vinyl and records are like that.
That's why it's so important to have mom and pop shops and these places for people to meet, because where are you going to meet other like-minded musicians or fans of music or freaks, you know? Maybe in the Panhandle, drinking a 40, you're like, I want to start a band, that's cool, but more likely at Aquarius, you know?
You must be like me. You know, I mean, that's sort of the human condition, though. You know, people want to be understood and understand, and they want to feel understood. And music is so core to who you are. For many people, it is. That if anybody's even like occupies a small percentage of that space of your identity, then you're like, oh my God, you must be just like me.
Everything ends. Everything changes, whether you want to or not. But that doesn't make it any easier. When I saw that email roll in, and it was like, oh, that's another place I like to go that I don't get to go to that often, that I won't get to go to again.
What are you gonna get?
This with me.
Oh,
apparently, yeah. Sorry, Erwin, Kirk, Sydney, Scott, Jim, and Allan.
This is the beginning of the movie right here. Oh, nasty.
Look, it's brand new.
Now it's all shiny now.
It's like a Red Bull or something, maybe?
Yeah, it's a
'Cause
wellness drink with vitamins.
Yeah.
Vitamin.
Oh, still carbonated. Look at that. It's not bad. Citrusy. It's got a weird aftertaste, like it's poison. Old.
That does taste old.
Yeah. It's got a weird old.
Just like Aquarius.
Got vitamins in it.
Yeah.
Did you want some, Alan?
Sure, it's good for me.
Can I smell it?
I drink it when it was new, but you can tell like the aftertaste, like it's many years old.
Yeah.
But the
Does
first
that have a sell-by
taste,
date on
like
it?
it's like good.
Does
It might,
it have a deadly poison after 10 years ago date on it?
Oh yeah, it does. Oh yeah, you guys want to know the sell-by date?
Yeah.
98. June of 98.
Huh. That's before we even owned the record store. Okay?
Yeah,
That's many years. It's like 5 years before we even bought the store.
I'm not gonna drink anymore. That's good.
For people who are looking for music to have value beyond instantaneous entertainment, to have some substance, I think that context is really important. And context can be more readily discovered through a well-curated, knowledgeable store like Aquarius.
You know what I mean? Like I could go to, Urban Outfitters or something, man. They sell music now. Shit, Whole Foods sells music now. You know what I mean? Are you gonna go talk to someone about what you're buying, or are you just gonna go buy like the new Rilo Kiley on vinyl there?
Like Urban Outfitters is the worst, where they're seeing these small models and mimicking them and doing these fake community-based fucking stores. Yeah, they're selling a lot of records, but it's just reeks of like cultural vulturism, and really bums me out because in the end, they're just taking what other people have worked hard for and attaching their brand to it.
Indie rock really started as a section in a record store. There was like rock, and then there was like just, I don't know, it's all on independent labels. Indie, sure. Now it's morphed into a big marketing term and, lifestyle brand or whatever.
Different kinds of music would sort of be in people's consciousness and come out, and I think that's only the result of very hardcore communities that intermingle. And I think, gentrification, which now is huge in San Francisco, hurts that. It's already hurt New York. So you really look for these kind of beacons of people who are a meeting point for different groups of people who coming from different mindsets in art and music. And I always saw FMU as that, and KFJC and Aquarius.
Some people call it noise. I'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Is it recording yet? Yes. Okay. This is Teemu from Finland, from Circle, and the name of this station is KALX Berkeley.
As I said earlier on in the program, tomorrow is going to be the very final day that Aquarius Records is going to be operating under the name Aquarius Records. It is going to take the bulk of July, starting from the day after tomorrow, going to go into renovations, and it's going to be transforming itself into the Peninsula edition of Stranded. So you will probably find me there tomorrow at some point. I will make my final purchase at Aquarius Records tomorrow. Sort of quintessential enthusiasm that you're talking about, that is just, there's this thing that we got, and it's, wrapped inside a pizza, and, there's only 7 of the pizza copies. The rest of them are wrapped in hot dog buns. You want to get the pizza copy of this one.
I want that album.
I think it's largely irrelevant to think to yourself, there's going to be nobody to take care of this. It's like, the art will always be there. Art will always be there. Just because Aquarius is gone, we should celebrate Aquarius. We should love that Aquarius even existed.
You know, it's the old lady down the street who, you know, always has pie for you when you show up, you know, and you're walking past or something like that. It's that kind of just really warm and friendly and comforting and engaging presence. And, you know, new people are, you know, that woman has died and now new people have moved into that house. Maybe they're bakers as well. Who knows? Maybe they'll have pie as well, but it's not the same pie. I'm very tired, so my metaphors are completely off the wall right now.
No, that totally makes sense.
And, you know, we want to still do something that's lets us share, you know, musical discoveries and things we love, but or maybe we don't have to sell the stuff and don't have to deal with that whole aspect of it. Yeah. So. You still filming?
I had just moved to San Francisco and I was walking around Valencia Street and I saw this place and I'm like, oh, this looks like a cool little store. So I walk in and I see all the reviews and I remember very clearly there was a Magma record that had a good review. You might have reviewed it. I think you like Magma, right? So I was like, oh, this is like French, prog, 70s, whatever. Sounds good. I just bought it without even listening to it. And I was like, holy shit, this music is great. You know?
On the one hand, he's not going to be responsible for that amazing amount of labor on a weekly basis. But on the other hand, he's not going to be responsible for that amount of labor on a weekly basis. That was the labor of love.
Mm-hmm.
And he just got back from tour, getting to meet customers and friends that he's met over the last 20-some years.
Mm-hmm.
And much of it because of Aquarius. And I don't think he wants to leave that behind. I think it's got to stay on in some way.
Yeah.
Also 44 years old, and I live in San Francisco, and I owe everybody money, and so I care less and less about being punk rock. So, in fact, my mom even called me, and she was like, "I'm worried that my mom." She's like, "I'm worried that people are gonna think you're selling out." Whoa. And I'm like, "Thanks, Mom." I was like, kind of like, "That's cool, Mom," but like, you even thought that, but like.
Same thing with Andy. It's like, you know, you don't want to be punk rock anymore when you're, you know, mid-40s. Yeah, that's okay. Doesn't mean suddenly he's going to wear khakis and, you know, polo shirts and, you know, join a country club. It's just like, yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to, like, you know, not be in debt or be able to take a vacation with your girlfriend when you have it in, you know, however many years. I mean, that's, yeah.
It's just, you know, like, that's something that you can never capture with the internet. Like, I walk into a store and, like, I discover 40 things simultaneously, and that's kind of why we kept, you know, a lot of time when San Francisco got really expensive, we were like, we thought about, like, oh, we could just be a internet store and it would be so much cheaper, but we're like, yeah, there's something special about being able to walk in and hang out, and yeah, for sure. So, anyway, all right, I'm sad, dude. Thank you for all the work. Like, it was, I'm telling you, for me, this is a huge loss. But I'm glad it existed, so we met, and, you know, that won't change, for sure. You can call my wife now, she worries that.
And what I also tell people as a little addendum too is that we always have to remember this, especially the older any music fanatic gets. You were once yourself 15. There's always a new 15-year-old. He or she is out there right now just making first discoveries. Never forget that. Never forget they're out there, and encourage them. And there are many different ways to encourage people like that. And now that Aquarius is gone, you have to think, okay, how can I get that spirit out one way or another to that 15-year-old? There are many different ways. Find the ones that are there.
Like, we're so lucky. Like, music opens you up to other people's experiences in ways that, you know, maybe a photograph can't always, right?
You know how lucky we were to have access and be at that moment of all that incredible, cool music.
I was just listening to some super old playlist on my iPod today, on my iPhone. I just felt this like whole swelling of happiness come out of me. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm listening to Ethiopian music from the 70s. And then right after that, there was like, you know, an Italian doom metal band. And then right after that was some other crazy like Detroit techno track from the 80s. And I love it all.
From progressive rock, slipping into the punk rock, new wave scene.
And when you get that chorus of voices, music from different musicians in different countries and different eras and different aesthetics, but it's all good and it's all mixed together in my life, that's so rich.
I couldn't be more grateful for being at that time, having a store in that rich, rich period of the 70s.
If you are a film buff, you're not only watching Star Wars. I mean, you go deep. I think it's with every possible thing around art, really. If you go deep, and then you go deeper. And then it never ends. Apparently never ends. There's always a new record, a new story.
To me, music is still like that big map in my head, and there are blank spots, and I need to go there to find out what kind of monkeys live on that island and some rare orchids and stuff like that. Whole picture of the world that's being drawn inside my head somewhere. So that is what music does to me. It just makes my world grow. And there are some favorite places I want to return to, and other places, you know, do not necessarily want to visit again, like ABBA. Don't want to go there.